There's a certain style of modern filmmaking where a director seems so excited to just have a camera in their possession that they'll shoot 90 minutes of paint drying and try to pass it off as atmosphere. It's as if they looked at directors like Werner Herzog and Harmony Korine, who in the past have made great use of minimalism and improvisation, but the most they took away from those films was, what's the least I can do with what I have right in front of me and still have it be considered a movie? Enter No One Will Save You. No One Will Save You reeks of being a short film tortured into feature length. There are times where it felt like I was watching someone's VFX demo reel repurposed into a movie. I'm pretty sure this was a COVID movie. There's a whole subgenre of horror movies that came out during the height of COVID. Movies where filmmakers, out of choice or necessity, devised films to accommodate a smaller cast and crew, or to take advantage of a world on lockdown. Some of these, like 2021's Dashcam, turned out really well. Others, like The Old Man, not so much. No One Will Save You feels like one of the latter, where rather than finding inspiration in these stripped-down conditions, a movie is tortured into existence. No One Will Save You is the story of Bryn, a young woman with a passion for cottagecore, living as an outcast in her small town because years ago she did something to cause her friend Maud's death. Everywhere she goes, people stare and laugh at her. The mailman practices basketball with her packages. The thing about cultivating an atmosphere of mystery around a character is it can be like walking a tightrope of expectations, meaning is the viewer's patience going to pay off? Will the final revelation, in this case the revelation of what Bryn did to Maud all those years ago, will the revelation retroactively impart a greater sense of drama to everything that came before? Will it all make sense why the townspeople treat Bryn the way they do? Will it add new dimension and depth to Bryn's character? These questions are important because one of the major problems with No One Will Save You is Bryn is barely a character. 20 minutes into the movie and the aliens begin their invasion of Bryn's small town by committing breaking and entry, and the problem is I feel almost nothing because Bryn isn't a character. Sure, I know facts about Bryn. I know her mother is dead, I know she's quaint and folksy, and I know something happened years ago to make her ostracized from the town. But she is still not enough of a character that I really feel or relate to her peril when she's playing hide and seek with a CGI video game monster. But well, this isn't really a problem just yet. I always try to engage with a piece of art on its own terms, and so this early in the film I am still patiently awaiting everything coming into focus. The aliens are obviously some sort of metaphor for Bryn's sense of persecution and isolation, etc., and I am still assuming that her character is going to be elaborated on, and that the mystery surrounding what happened to Maud is going to add so much context to everything that these otherwise bland scenes of cottagecore queen versus AELMAO will in hindsight all make sense. But then it never really happens. One of the problems lies in the main conceit of the film, the fact that there is almost zero dialogue. This is, I guess, the gimmick that was supposed to make the movie stand out. Never mind that A Quiet Place did it years earlier and with much more of a purpose. The lack of dialogue is another element that just feels like writer-director Brian Duffield saying, "What is the path of least resistance I can take while making a movie?" Well, no dialogue, that makes things easier. All the alien stuff, I can just leave that up to the computer guys to plug in later. The problem is, though, character is largely informed by other people, all the little ways they act and react to one another. Now, you can argue that that does happen between Bryn and the townspeople, even without dialogue, but then it's all centered around what Bryn did to Maud, which the movie has yet to reveal. Every interaction between Bryn and the townspeople is the same note, revolves around the same plot point. Almost the entirety of Bryn's character is wrapped up in this mystery. Well, okay, it better be good then. The resolution to this mystery better knock my socks off. So the invasion gets underway, and Bryn fights some more aliens, which all kind of have the flavor of video game enemy variations. That was one thing that struck me about the movie, is that the story is so perfunctory and the aliens so front and center that it feels like the whole thing would work better as some sort of indie video game, where the player, as an active participant, would be able to imbue a greater sense of character into Bryn. Anyway, then the aliens get into Bryn's head, and after all this waiting, and with so much of the movie riding on it, we finally get our answer to what did happen between Bryn and Maud, what made the townspeople react to this otherwise nice-seeming young woman with revulsion and scorn for 10 years. What happened was, when Bryn was 12, she and Maud got into an argument. Maud pushed Bryn, and then Bryn hit Maud with a rock and killed her. There needed to be something more. This is really the mildest version of what I was expecting. The way the whole town was reacting, and 10 years after it happened no less, I was expecting some sort of Slender Man murder situation, something more malevolent and deranged. Not only is this revelation not particularly shocking, it's not particularly detailed either. It doesn't really go into Bryn's state of mind at the time, it doesn't really challenge our sympathies for Bryn in any meaningful way. I guess you could argue that the aftermath of Bryn killing the alien when she goes to the police and runs into Maud's parents, I guess you could argue that that's a sort of abstract retelling of what happened all those years ago, but at that point it just sort of feels like I'm doing the work for the movie, trying to divine some sort of clarity where there really isn't any, and where the story needed to display some. I guess Bryn killing Maud is intended as some sort of allusion to Cain and Abel, and I guess the director has described the alien invasion as some sort of religious conversion, with shoving the alien parasites down people's throats being a sort of forced communion. But then I guess my question is, what does that have to do with anything, really? What does that have to do with Bryn? As far as I can recall, Bryn was never shown to be religious, never had anything to do with religion. Whatever Christian allusions the film seems to be drawing from, as obtuse as they are, seem to be strictly cosmetic. The moment where the older Bryn seems to forgive her younger self came off to me as trite and simplistic. I don't know if I would have even picked up on a majority of the religious symbolism if I hadn't read about it elsewhere. There's subtlety, and then I think there's a failure of communication. Maybe CGI video game monsters aren't the best venue for religious metaphor. The alien parasites as some sort of stand-in for the communion wafer is buried under the fact that we have seen this sort of thing already in half a dozen other alien movies, so that it becomes a case of one sort of iconography being supplanted by another. The real problem, though, is whatever theme or meaning I was supposed to derive from the whole thing, I was never engaged with the film enough on even a surface level to dwell on it. For instance, if I do a video where I'm talking about The Fly, and I say the movie is toying with ideas of transhumanism and Nietzschean philosophy, it's not that the initial appeal of the movie to me is those themes. The initial appeal of The Fly is that it's about Jeff Goldblum turning into a grotesque fly monster. But then, because I like those aspects of the film so much, then from there I will think about what else the movie might be trying to say underneath all that. But in the case of No One Will Save You, frankly, I don't care what the movie is trying to say because the way it's saying it is so clumsy and dull. The story is meandering, the main character is flat and one-dimensional. The special effects are boring and leave nothing to the imagination. So, by the end, when Bryn is shown much happier, living in a world where all her neighbors are taken over by aliens, I might speculate that the underlying meaning is supposed to be that the aliens found no need to enslave Bryn because she was already so enslaved by her own guilt. Or maybe it's supposed to mean that she is actually free now and is finally able to rejoin society, even if they are creepy space aliens. I don't know what the ending means exactly, but the real problem is I don't care. In conclusion, I did not like No One Will Save You.